Okay, I'm going to talk triggers here. Let me apologize for the camera. I left my tripod mounted at home. Yes, both of these are currently set to fire, but there's no trigger in them, so that's the reason I didn't really worry too much about them, because my triggers are right here. Got three different ones here. First is, of course, the old workhorse. Um, this is your stock trigger. Pulls about 8 pounds. There's nothing special about this trigger, and it's definitely not a great one. Second trigger, this one is made by CMMG. See the brass bushings and everything. It looks good. When I found this trigger online for $89, most places have it for about 120 or so. Found it for $89, $10 shipping, so it came out to right at $100. I thought, that's a good deal. I want a nice two-stage trigger that's going to work for me. So I ordered it, and when I got it, I was like a kid on Christmas. I opened up the package, took it out, put it in the M&P here, and you did the little safety checks and everything. Put your finger, hold the hammer while you're cycling through it. Put the rifle together. Pulled the trigger, and all I can say is I immediately felt like I got burned. It was a heavy trigger. It had a good let. It's got a really good let off, but the trigger itself is so heavy that it takes away from it. I actually went out and bought a trigger pull gauge and tested it. And this stock trigger right here, which was at the time still in my other lower here, which is a Delton, all Delton parts in it, except for the buffer that you can see right there as a Palmetto State Armory buffer. But I tested the stock trigger, that was 8 pounds, and this thing right here was running over 10 pounds at that point. This part right here is extremely hard too, the spring for your disconnector. So, wasn't real happy about that. Sent a message to CMMG on Facebook. Took them a few days. They got back to me, said call. Well, of course I had to work, so it took me a few days to give them a call. Called them. They said, well, you got to work the triggers in. You got to shoot it. But it's not a match trigger. And it will never be a match trigger. They said it will, on average, they'll work in somewhere between 4 and 6 pounds. Well, last I checked, after with the work I've done, do a little polishing, some oil, it's still 8.5 pounds. So on my way out of town last Friday to go home, I found this right here locally. Doesn't look quite as good as this, the machining and everything. But this is a Rock River Arms 2-stage match trigger. This one, I got home, put it in my rifle. This one went into the Delton lower. Pull the trigger, I was a happy camper. This one right here pulls at 4.5 pounds. It's nice and crisp. And guess what? I paid the same price for this as I did for this. This was $10 of shipping. This one had a few bucks of sales tax. So this one actually came out cheaper. Much better trigger, much nicer trigger pull. And definitely worth it if you're looking for just an upgrade trigger, but you don't want to spend hundreds of dollars as some of the triggers out on the market are, go with the Rock River Arms. I can't recommend this trigger right here. They said I could send it back to them and they'll do a trigger job and send it back to me and everything. But you know what? At the range on Sunday, I put the Smith & Wesson lower on my rifle after I had been shooting with the Rock River Arms one. Fired one magazine, said, you know what? This lower sucks. Took it back off, switched back over to the Delton lower, and went the rest of the day just shooting the Rock River Arms. This is a very nice trigger. I'm happy with it. For the money, this not even being $100 trigger, that's a good deal. They're easy to put in. As you can see, they match up just like the stock one does. Except the stock one, this is a separate piece. I've got a pin in it just to hold it in. And this one right here, it's blocked in. So it's actually a little bit easier to put in. You don't have to hold quite as much stuff. Good trigger. Stock trigger. I felt like I got burnt. Really did. So that's just my 2 cents. Let me know what you think if you have any questions. Thanks.